My name is Jason Goopy, and I'm a recent PhD graduate from the University of Queensland, Brisbane, Australia. And the topic of my investigation was adolescent boys' music beliefs, values, and identity work in a single-sex independent school. And what I've done is that I've sent you this posted PDF in the chat, so you can look at it there, and I'm also going to zoom in for us as well. Okay, so music has the potential to shape and support who we are and who we will become. Recent research has highlighted the significance of musical identities and adolescent identity work. The term identity work acknowledges that the construction of identities is continuously ongoing and evolving. Adolescents' musical identities can be examined by their uses of music and identities, and the musical roles they adopt, their identities in music. Psychological perspectives also seek to explain musical behaviours by investigating inner states such as music beliefs and values. Musical identities can be shaped and supported by music learning and development, highlighting the potential contributions and responsibilities of school music education. Little research has specifically examined the role of secondary school class music, also known around the world as classroom music or general music, education in boys' identity work. This study investigated adolescent boys' music beliefs, values, and identity work in a single-sex independent school. Narrative inquiry and case study methodology were used for this research. The research setting was my place of employment at the time, an Australian independent P-12 boys' school. Consequently, the study methodology was underpinned by continuous teacher research of reflexivity. Data were generated and triangulated using one-on-one semi-structured interviews incorporating a draw and tell artifact elicitation technique with 10 Year 12 students and their parents. Narrative analysis and analysis of narratives approaches were employed in the interpretation of the data. This resulted in the co-construction of 6 unique student stories. The collective analysis of narratives informs the discussion and included the remaining 4 student interview transcripts, providing a means to corroborate and or challenge the findings presented in the 6 student stories. And you can see I've included some of these drawings that were collected from the boys and in here. So you can see this particular drawing here. What you enjoy about music was representing freedom from a particular boy. The autotelic experience, this particular drawing here, was talking about the state of flow that one particular student experienced when he was playing his guitar with others in a band that he was in. This particular drawing here was the dream that a student had to become a country music star in Outback Australia. And this particular drawing here highlights the multiple possible music futures that this student aspires to. So there were 3 research questions that underpinned my study. And the first one was, what are the music beliefs, values, and uses of adolescent boys in a single-sex independent school? So it was found that they were interconnected, individualized, diverse, and are evolving. Their beliefs and values were found to be mental states, inseparable from their behaviors and actions, overlapping and fusing together. They use music for making and managing the self, for autotelic experiences, self-expression and self-concept, self-regulation, and music and musician models. Music was used by adolescent boys to establish, develop, and maintain relationships, to be valued by others and make a valuable contribution to others' lives. Students in this study placed high value on developing music proficiency, consisting of value for music learning, listening to diverse and new music, sound experimentation, and music creation, and music expertise independence. In regards to the second research question, how do these adolescent boys use music to shape and support their identity work? It was found that the adolescent boys in this study use music in personalised and evolving ways as an ongoing resource to shape and support their musical identities and their possible selves. They were found to have multiple and circumstantial musical identities, and the extent of their engagement with music and music's influence varied between individuals, ranging from hobby to holistic. Participants were self-aware and able to identify these differences, and they used music as a resource for self to self and self to others in the construction of their musical identities for the purposes of connectedness and a sense of belonging. Boys use prior music experiences in music learning and development to inform their present and projected future use of music. And of course, these findings that I'm presenting to you today are the analysis of the narratives. There's also 6 really wonderful narratives you can read as well. The third question, what aspects of class music in this context shape and support adolescent boys' identity work in and through music? And despite mixed perspectives in the literature, students in this study articulated the view that class music had a significant and positive role in shaping their identity work. And there were 3 major themes or categories that emerged from the participants: the teacher-student relationship, teacher philosophy and pedagogy, and the class music curriculum. And under this first heading, the idea that the teacher was a credible model and expert, able to ignite and share passion and genuine care was expressed. In regards to the second theme, the development of musical understanding, learner agency and ethical music learning community and entangled musical worlds. And the class music curriculum valued diverse music literature, sequentially layering music domains and diverse and authentic learning experiences. In conclusion, this study demonstrated the potential of music education, particularly class music, to positively shape and support students' broader identity work. Adolescent boys and their parents reported the significance of class music in boys' identity construction as they developed musical independence. This study identified emerging themes that were not readily available in the literature and that warrant further research. Just if you're interested, and I'd love you to be interested, in the thesis itself, you can actually access it through the DOI link down in the bottom left corner, or if you just Google the title of the paper or my name, you'll probably find it as well. But I'd love for you to obviously reference or distribute or make comment or provide feedback. It'd be great to hear from you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Jason. It's lovely research. Any quick question for Jason, colleagues? We still have 3 minutes. Yes, we got a question from Eloise. From Julia. Were the interpretation of drawings based on students' descriptions? Jason?
Great question. So what happened in the process is that students were asked a number of questions, but 3 particular drawing questions stood out or were significant that I asked. What do you enjoy about music? What do you enjoy about class music? And what will you do with music in your future? And the students and parents actually had the opportunity to have some time to draw, about 5 or 10 minutes. And at the end of the drawing opportunity, they spoke to what they drew. And it was really interesting, actually, just having that reflection time within the interview itself really brought out quite rich data from the participants. The questions that were not drawing elicited, sure, they gave quite good responses, but as soon as there was drawing involved, the data was just pages and pages long. And so narrative inquiry was really an appropriate way then to interpret this data, because great stories were able to be told about these boys and the role of music in their lives.
Okay, another question from Eloise. So as governments in Australia and around the world cut funding to music programs, what are the potential implications for this to the development of adolescent identities?
Great question, and hello, Eloise. We're actually both from Brisbane and UQ, which is great to see supporting each other. This is one of the recommendations that I spoke quite a lot about in my conclusions. Is that particularly in Australia, we have 2/3 of Australian primary school students that don't have access to a music education in primary school, which is shocking, actually, when you think about it in terms of the numbers. The implications in terms of this data are that it serves as evidence that, particularly in a time of crisis, in a time of uncertainty, and a time where we need to bring people together, music has the power to act as a resource in doing that. And so in positive way as well. So I think that's probably the most significant outcome of this particular project that's relevant to this time and place. And of course, it looks at the way that music education in particular has the potential to develop that positive identity that flows on into their normal everyday activities, and the way that normal everyday activities through music can enrich somebody's life and contribute towards a holistic and a balanced education.
Okay. And one more question for you, Jason.
Great.
Did you interpret the drawings too?
It's interesting. I didn't necessarily use a specific drawing interpretation technique, but there were, during the interview, when the students presented the drawings, they may have given a response that may have been slightly different or not necessarily answering exactly what they had drawn. So I might have said, for instance, you know, you've got here a cliff face in the ocean. What does this represent? You haven't spoken about that yet. Or I can see in your drawing, you've spoken about your dream to be a country music star, but why have you drawn a truck? And the truck represents the road train carrying all of the different, you know, and it's basically the PR. It's the PR mechanism of, it's modeled off the American as well, country music stars and how they promote themselves. So it's really interesting. Yes, it wasn't a specific drawing analysis technique, but the drawings were interrogated a bit further in the process of interviewing.